Hello everyone, it's Joe here from OmniPoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon. Today we're looking at Lucario Melmetal-GX, and I was just in preparation for this video, and I'm beating a Reshizard, so I thought I'd stick the recorder on just to watch the end of this game while I deck out this Reshizard, and then we'll get into the deck list. So enjoy the first bit of action, and then you'll get to see more of this list in a moment. But yeah, we're getting there against this Reshizard that's also playing this one. So they have no deck. We just beat a fire deck. If that's not an indicator that this archetype's good, I don't know what is. So I'll jump back to the deck list now. I always like to do some practice games before I get the recording going, and this is actually an archetype that I was testing a good amount even before Bristol Regionals. I was testing it like in the first few days of the set coming live on PTGO. I think an attacking mill is very powerful, actually, and the Lucario Melmetal is a perfect candidate for attacking mill, because for a DCE cost, its first attack just does 50 damage, and we can bounce with Acerola and keep doing that poke. It really reminds me of Magikarp Warlord, not Magikarp Warlord, what was it? Warlord EX. It used Shaman and Floatstone and Rough Seas, so you would Shaman EX, attach a DC, and just Sky Return back into Warlords, so that you were constantly pressurizing threats and slowly grinding your opponent on knockouts whilst also trying to stall them out of the game. So you're attacking on two fronts. You're physically taking prizes, but you're also resource, denying them as much as possible. So with the amount of heals that we have, the Lusamine Acerola loop, we have 4 max potions, we have Plumerias, we have that means of denying people game, but at the same time we're also trying to literally take prizes against them, which is a faster win condition than ultimately running your opponent out of cards in their deck a lot of the time as well. So definitely a very cool archetype. I think there will more likely going to be lots of sort of Hooper Regigigas decks that add in maybe 1 or 2 copies of Lucario Melmetal, just because its GX attack is strong and you can still do this Steel Fist attack here and there. But this is also a very interesting build where you can just be aggressive for almost the entire game, whilst also having these defensive tools in here as well. So I like this. I think having the attacking presence in the deck means you can deal with threats that you otherwise couldn't do with stall. For example, looking at things like Ultra Malamar, outside of using Get Lost with a Girafarig, you can't really find your way of beating an Ultra Necrozma, which just stacks up a bunch of energies and starts swinging into your Regigigases, whilst also they have like Giratina for Hoopers and stuff. So they have answers for the majority of things. It's just in this build we can start attacking those Ultra Necrozmas and putting them under a clock to get a bunch of energies onto them all at once, but at the same time we're going to be putting pressure on them. So that's the whole idea. You can knock out threats, and that's something that the regular stall decks can't do. Really, you have the Lost Purge from a Lugia GX, but that's it. And here we're going for a different approach. So let's have a look at this build. First of all, 4 copies of the new Tag Team GX Lucario and Melmetal. 260 hit points is not bad. Metal typing, fire weakness is the biggest worry, of course. You just saw me beat one, which is great, but fire is definitely a concern. Let's make no mistake here. We have the frying pans, but if there is Field Blower, we're going to be in a huge amount of trouble. And even with, if they're not playing Field Blower, a Reshizard can still one-shot you with 6 energies attached to them. Now, getting 6 energies onto them is kind of difficult, even though they have Welder and Kiawe and stuff. We have our own GX attack, which can slow them down. We have Plumerias, which can try and slow them down. So they have to be patient against us. It's not completely free, but it should be a very favorable matchup for fire decks. That's the biggest reason to not play a Lucario Melmetal deck, obviously. But your matchups are pretty favorable against a lot of the other stuff. That was what I would really praise about this archetype. I think it's very difficult to beat for everything that's not red. So that's the idea here. As mentioned, Steel Fist is the first attack. For a DC, you do 50. Search your deck for a metal energy and attach it to this Pokemon. This is really nice. It's deck thinning for you. It's starting to threaten the heavy impact attack. And at the same time, if we Acerola, we essentially gain a card. And gaining a card that's especially a metal energy is perfect, because we have infinite metal energies in this deck with Mount Coronet. So the Coronet Plumeria loop means we can infinitely Plumeria for free, basically. As long as we like Lusamine these Plumerias and whatnot. So the Steel Fist being like a +1 card, which essentially gets back into our hand later on, is amazing. And it really just makes the heavy impact a much more threatening option, because you can go straight from DCE, getting 3 energies on you, and then you're able to just attach next turn for the heavy impact, which is 150. It's really good numbers, to be fair. Doing 50 into 150 is threatening, and 150 is two-shotting other tag teams. So it's a good number. It's nothing like that's going to instantly one-shot or whatever, but it's still just a big amount of damage, and it's good pressure. As mentioned, we're going to try and out-resource the opponent, and then when they stop attacking us, we'll just start hitting them for 150, 150, 150, and that's going to give us a great window to win the game. Full Metal Wall GX is obviously a big selling point of this archetype. For one colorless, you say that for the rest of the game, your metal Pokemon take 30 less damage from your opponent's attacks. If you do have an extra energy attached, so essentially if it's 2 metals or if it's a DCE, you also remove all energy from your opponent's active Pokemon and discard them. So this is like a Articuno GX attack, the Cold Crush, but we also get that amazing 30 reduction, that's sort of hidden reduction, but there for the entire game. So essentially with the Frying Pan plus Full Metal Wall GX attack being used combination, we are essentially a 320 hit point Pokemon for them to one-shot in 1 hit. But, you know, just even if they're trying to poke around us, we're doing a minus 60 reduction to every attack that we take. So it really does help us along this route of going for Acerolas and Max Potions and whatnot, and trying to out-tank people. That's the entire premise of this list. From there, we have 3 copies of a non-GX Dusk main Necrozma, 130 hit point Metal Ultra Beast. So again, we get the benefit of Full Metal Wall as the reduction. We have the Dusk Shot attack, which is the main selling point for this card, which is why I'm using it really. You do 60 to one of your opponent's Pokemon GX or EX, and it isn't affected by weakness or resistance. Again, we're an attacking build. We can start threatening things, putting damage counters on the field against threats that we are concerned about. If they are going to try and charging up things on the bench or whatnot, we can just have this active, trying to put damage on them early and put them under pressure, so that they can't just sit there and wait until they are in the in the perfect moment to use their main attackers. The Dust Main is going to try and make it awkward for them. Rusty Claws can also do for 2 metal and a colorless 100. Not too much to write home about, but this is our option against things that wall GXs. So against Hoopers, basically, you have infinite metal energies thanks to Mount Coronet. So you can slowly grind out Hoopers eventually, maybe with Rusty Claws. Obviously, they have infinite Acerolas and whatnot, but we have infinite energies, so it can come down to other factors. But essentially, we can always have an attacking presence against the Hoopers and make them play cards. So, yeah, that's something to bear in mind. On to the items now. Very simple. We have 2 copies of Counter Catcher. Although we are an attacking presence, we will oftentimes go behind. Oftentimes, the non-GXs will be sacked quite easily, similar to how Celosaur wants to, or sort of lets the opponent take 2 individual single prize cards by knocking these guys out. It has no difference in the fact that they have to deal with 2 tag teams to win the game. We can do the same, and it activates our Counter Catchers, which is great. Obviously, we can greens for them, so that's amazing. 3 copies of Nest Ball to get out our basic Pokemon. 4 OVs of the Max Potion, of course, as well as Pokegear. Pokegear is an incredibly strong card for stalling archetypes. Look at the proportion of our deck and how many of them are supporters. Pokegear is like always live, and it's always going to be helpful for us. It's great for helping you survive Let Loose, and it's great for giving you extra turn 1 Stevens outs. So Pokegear is incredible for stalling archetypes, and even this one, just because of the utility that you gain from this 1 trainer card, which is absolutely insane. It sort of protects you from that sort of weak early game that you can sometimes have. I think with Stevens and Greens, it's so much better than having, like, previously the Stevens and Bills in the first place, but also having this extra layer in the Pokegear 3.0 is incredible. The 3 Mount Coronet alongside Lusamine gives us infinite metals, as I mentioned, and it makes Plumeria a lot less painful. And then we move on to the supporters. 1 copy of Faber, just instantly removing special energies and lost zoning them is great. Also some tool and stadium removal as well, so that we can win the stadium war. Then we have Gladion, obviously to help us access some prize cards. If there are any of these one-off supporters in the prizes, we can pull them out, and even if there are some 4-ofs like Acerola and Max Potion, they're fine to pick out as well. Then we have 2 copies of Guzma to go alongside our Counter Catchers, 1 copy of Tate Liza for additional switching options, as well as some Shuffle Draw as well, so we don't deck ourselves out. One Skull Grunt, again, just trying to target the opponent's hand when we can for energy cards. And then we have the 3 ofs of Plumeria. Again, just energy removal alongside this damage pressure is always of concern, and it's, you know, part of our main win condition, run our opponent out of stuff. The Lusamine to recycle these supporters. Then we have 4 of Green's Exploration, a fantastic supporter card that we can take full advantage of here. It can help us grab early nest balls, so we don't just get donked. It can grab us our frying pans. It can grab us max potions as well. So a really versatile and useful card. Obviously, it can also get us into our supporters as well, which is usually a big factor. It can get you like an immediate max potion as well as starting you off in that Lusamine chain and whatnot, or just find you, you know, an Acerola or Plumeria or whatnot for next turn. So Greens is very strong. Do bear in mind I have a really sore throat at the moment, so do bear with me drinking a lot of water here. For Acerola, obviously this is the core supporter that we'll use to undo damage so we can keep swinging with Steel Fist the following turn. And then the Frying Pans is our only real defense against the fire stuff. It's kind of a paper-thin defense, but it's all we have. And against everything else, this is an insane tool. Reducing 30, and in addition to the Full Metal Wall, just makes this guy super tanky, very annoying to deal with. And then we round out with 9 energy cards. Very simple, really. DCs are core, so that we can use those Acerola loops, and the metal energies we can pull out very, very easily with the Steel Fist, and is what lets us go infinite with Plumerias and Mount Coronets, and make sure that we never run out of energy cards as well. So that's great. The only way we can run out of energy cards is if we are up against opposing mill players that can fabber away 3 Mount Coronets, which is a bit of a concern. But yeah, that's really something that they can do. If you want to come up against some stalling decks, I mean, they have a huge toolkit that they can try and use against you. But let's jump into the ladder now and see what we come up against. I think the Lucario Melmetal deck may be best as the milling variant other than the attacking one. But I like attacking a little bit, you know. I like doing that little bit of constant pressure. It gives us good outs against decks that we otherwise would have no answer to, which I think is pretty interesting, to be honest. I also think this may be one of these archetypes that's better to play early on in this Unbroken Bonds meta, when a lot of people can't afford or haven't quite got around to finding enough Reshizards to actually play the archetype yet. So it might be good for like early cups and challenges. You never know. Alolan Eggs is an archetype that often plays Let Loose, which is a concern. But other than that, this should be a fine matchup. Ditto can copy anything. That's true enough. That's pretty cool in a deck that plays so many individual basic energies. The Detective Pikachu Ditto. That's a Jirachi build of Exeggutor. Here's the fresh squeezed Shuckle. Yeah, the only real concern from this hand is if we get let loose. We're holding on to Steven's DCE, which are 2 very core pieces. But otherwise, we shouldn't have too much trouble against an Exeggutor. I'm going to retreat into Jirachi and get a Stellar Wish going. They get themselves a nice Lily for turn 1 here. Yeah, I got back from Bristol Regionals, and it's just one of those things where you always get a cold. Like, it feels like I always feel ill after big tournaments. I don't know, lots of germs, lots of late nights with friends and stuff. It just wears you down sometimes. We're just going to grab one of these. I'm actually going to attach to the bench, I think. I want to play around Let Loose as much as I possibly can. Sure, let's do this. This feels fine. So we still have this same like Stevens engine to kick things off in the game a lot of the time. Often you'll actually Stevens to find yourself a DCE, to be honest, to get that full metal wall up and rolling. But you do wean off the Stevens pretty quickly with this list, because Steel Fist is really good. But for setting yourself up initially with that Lusamine loop is still what Steven is great for, so you will take full advantage of him in this list. This is one of these archetypes with very good and very bad matchups. You can walk in to a room and have 90 10s against one thing, and then 90 10s like that aren't in your favor against other stuff. So just bear that in mind when you're thinking about playing this archetype. We can Plumeria pretty happily here, I think. We give them infinite, their one of metal energy if we want to, but yeah, they're just going to concede. It's not surprising, to be honest. Start going for Plumerias, start running them out. They normally have like 7 grass, sometimes energy recycle system, but their damage output definitely isn't good enough to beat us. Let's see what else we're up against. I think outside of Fire Deck, some of your worst matchups is the new Blastoise. The new Blastoise is a very scary archetype to deal with, because they have lots of energies that just keep going back into their deck, and energies in the deck is pretty much the only place we can't target people's energy cards. I'm going to put down both Duskmanes here, just because we want to always be cautious of Let Loose, no matter what we're up against. And we can always give up 2 individual prize cards pretty freely. It looks like we are up against some sort of Malamar variant. And this is what I was saying earlier. A regular mill deck can really struggle against Malamar. We still obviously do struggle against Malamar, but we can have more proactive answers against Ultra Necrozma. They can't just freely sit there and Psychic Recharge like 5 times over like 3 turns onto an Ultra Necrozma and then just put down a Viridian, attach a metal, come in and take a big swing quite as easily with when they're up against this list, because we're going to try and put damage on them as quickly as possible. We do get Let Loose immediately. That's obviously one thing in this deck that people aren't going to do against us as much as possible. They're going to put down Dawn Wings. Okay. They're going to treasure. Throw. Let's see, another Let Loose. That's a shame. We could have started Dusk shotting. I guess we had no supporter though, so maybe we get into a better hand this time around. Also, them Let Loosing twice now is good for us. It makes their board state worse, and at the same time, like, it's one less Let Loose that we have to worry about later on. We Pokegear into not Greens or Stevens, which is a bit of a shame. If we Guzma now, it means they can't Psychic Recharge to this, and that's the only attacking presence currently. So we'll play a Guzma, and we'll just pass. In order to force them to put down another basic Pokemon here. Maybe it forces the Ultra Necrozma into play early, so we can start using Dusk Shot on them. Wow, they played Judge as well. There's a lot of mill hate out there. And a Cynthia. They get themselves a switch. So they can start using Psychic Recharge. Looks like they're a Spell Tag Mally. Interesting. That's a lot less worrying than a... Well, maybe it still is Ultra Mally that just plays Spell Tag. We'll just get rid of this. And pass. So we are in that waiting room for Stevens, Greens, Poker Gear. Even Metal Energy is not a bad top deck. Getting this rolling is good for us. It kind of puts them on a clock now. We can just Dusk shot a bunch of times, and it's going to help us thin out our hand. Well, thin out our deck, I mean. And they're going to Dark Flash. Okay. Gets through resistance, of course. We pick up a DCE, which isn't ideal. I have to think very hard if I want to sack Lusamine here. Just to get rid of a Psychic Energy card. Doesn't seem worth it when there's this here. So I think we're just going to do this and Dusk shot for 60. It's crucial that we thin the deck of these bad draws. If we can help it, we really don't want to see Guzma Distortion Door. Well, they had the option. I guess even just Distortion Door this one, an attack is fine, but we have the Frying Pan to make it less good. Yeah, looks like they were holding Guzma Distortion Door already. So we have one top deck, try and live. And greens should be good enough. Gonna get rid of the Plumeria, knowing that we have to Lusamine back greens anyway, and it will probably be greens Plumeria, to be honest. I think the Frying Pan's fine to just hold. I'll just go for Dust Shot here. I think it's actually best if we don't knock out this Dawn Wings, because his board has no good attackers. It really doesn't have any good attackers. His maximum damage output is 160. So I think we're never killing anything this game. But threatening this damage is still really valid because it makes him make plays. If that makes sense. Now we pick up another greens. That's fine. We can do it this way around. We just... So... I need another Pokemon. So I can do the Acerola loop. So, Lusamine. These I can greens for those. Okay, seems fine. Because they play Judge, I think I will try my best to play around that and just pass. The fact they filled their bench is very good for us, but at the same time they can always start shadow impacting to open up bench space for themselves. Our opponent currently has only 13 or 12 cards left in their deck right now. No sign of metal energies just yet. And the spell tag might be an indication that it's not an ultra build. 3, 6, 7, 8 energy at least is psychic. Oh no, 7 energy at least is psychic. Okay. We're just going to GX. Removes 3 energy. Strands this guy. Somewhat, at least. And makes us tankier. Our opponent literally just passes. It's very good for us. We're going to keep pitching energy cards. It makes our Steel Fist less useful, but I can just manually attach anyway this turn. I'm going to start the squeeze on our opponent, basically. That's pretty much what we're trying to do here. Make life very difficult for them to win at this point. How many stadiums have they played so far? Just the one so far. But this is something that we can always Lusamine recover when we need to. I can hit this for 50, can't I? Is it worth? It makes him 1 Shadow Impact away. I think it's fine to attack. Okay, they're just going to pass. We shall Lusamine for Lusamine Plumeria. And now we're going to start trying to go to work on these energy cards, I think. I mean, we want to have the Plumeria available for when he brings out the Giratina, right? There's no point in us starting to get rid of them in the back. It's about getting rid of them on the front. That's the thing we're worried about. If they start manually attaching to this to retreat out, or if they're going to go for like a Guzma play and start trying to chain Shadow Impacts, we want to have Plumeria available for that. So that's the kind of thing that we're after here. Guzma doesn't do anything, Faber doesn't do anything, Plumeria doesn't do anything from this point. I think we can just Stevens here. We have Counter Catcher available if we want to start knocking out Malamars. I think the Skull Grunt's the thing we want to do to start targeting metal energies. Max Potion's something that's just good to have in hand. I think I just want versatile cards in my hand at this point. Just some more speedy answers are good to hold in hand, I think. I think we're pretty much here. Okay. Let's do this. Plumeria, do the active. Pass. We could DC the backup Lucario Melmetal. We actually should, to be honest. Ah, here's a switch. Second recharge, doing the stuff. Interestingly, going on to this target, I would have thought they might have looked to knock this out. Shadow Impact. Possibly they're looking to start knocking out their own Marshadows. They're going to put it on themselves. That's fine. I think Skull Grunt is definitely something we want to try and do this turn. We have to make sure that there's no Ultra Necrozma action going on here. Oh, it's playing Muck. Muck and Dugong. What an interesting list. we can hit this guy pretty contently. Spell tag with Muck is pretty interesting. You can try and do some cool poison math fixing. I guess that's what he's going for with the spell tags. So his maximum damage is still 20 off, right? I mean, Acerola's fine, though. Yeah, Acerola's fine. Just in case there's anything random. We scouted their hand last turn, but I think this is just fine. There's not much reason to not play this. I think I'm more scared of a Muck than I am of a Giratina, so if he wants to knock out his own Giratina, he can. He's going to start working on his Marshadow now. Interestingly, taking the one with a tool rather than any other one, but just show him that we have Lusamine Loop rolling. Pass. Probably currently with 4 cards left in their deck. 4 Cynthias and a Judge played. Should be able to go to the line. I know how I sort of praised the attacking presence of this deck, but against the Malamar, there are threats that they can power up all at once. So trying to deny those is more premium, and the fact that our opponent filled his bench early was something that we could just capitalize on pretty happily here. He's going to continue to just throw damage counters around with his Tina. Now we're just going to keep Lusamine Acerola. Opponent with 1 card left in deck. And you can see that we do sort of attack on 2 fronts. But in the end, it's the stall that was able to win out this matchup. Yep. Nice. Have to be very careful with your bench against Malamar. Or sorry, careful with their bench and see how you can capitalize on it. Alrighty. We have Mulligan. That happens a lot. We're essentially a Celosaur with the amount of basics that we play. Would have been a pretty sick hand with Stevens and double Lusamine in the hand and Max Potion and DCE. Oh, it was too good. We weren't allowed it. We are given a Duskmane, a Greens, and a Stevens, though, so overall that's pretty good. Pretty high on the spectrum of opening hands. Let's see what we're up against. Looks like a Pikarom, possibly. Yeah, it's Pikarom. Picarom's one of these decks which has the potential to do a huge amount of damage, but we also have a lot of removal tools, obviously. Lots of reduction. 320 is very difficult for them to reach. And again, Dusk Shot putting pressure on things puts them on a timer. They can't just sit and build electro powers happily. We make it a concern for them to put all their energies onto one Pikachu and Zekrom. Again, we're very concerned about Let Loose. They're going to Lily for 6. Obviously, Pikarom has resistance to metal as well, something to bear in mind. Yep, we're going to see Let Loose. And let's cross our fingers. Pokegear ain't bad. That gives us a chance. Stevens basically is a loss, so I'm gonna hope to find greens here. No greens, so we'll just grab Tate Liza here. Probably just attach and shuffle draw. Feels bad to attach DC, it's such a good card for the deck, but looks like it worked out okay. We found a basic. Let's pass. Survived Let Loose just about. Not the conventional way. Having to use a Tate Liza. But if they full blitz, they have to be concerned about us finding another DC, which we were fortunate enough to do so. So they may start putting energies onto the bench Pikarom here with a full blitz. They actually missed energy, which is very good for us. So I'm just gonna, whoops, I have a cat in my face. I'm just gonna gear here. I'm gonna grab greens over Stevens, because I want to GX this for sure. GXing 2 energy seems like reasonable value. While we can build our hand a little bit better. Especially because our opponent didn't do much with their hand. We're holding ace, we have Plumeria. I think Lusamine greens is good. It could be Lusamine Stevens as well though. Greens can always get us into more heals. Means we can keep attacking as well, which I do like the appeal of because it thins our metal energies out of our deck to make these Plumerias actually work. So I think it's very, very reasonable to go for this. Our opponent's already popped the Cocoa Prism Star, so removing 2 energies is actually painful for them. It's not as much as it could have been, obviously, when they can start full blitzing, but I think this is still very reasonable. It just goes for the old attach pass. Picking up a Stevens. Again, I think I'm going to stick with the line that I want to get these Steel Fists rolling to make our Plumerias work faster with Mount Coronet. So, I like the idea of grabbing, what's it called here? Probably just another Stevens and Mount Coronet itself. More greens, or do I want to start going for Skull Grunts out of our opponent's hand? They're going to attach every time. So, I think it might just be another greens here. I like having the flexibility of green. That's what makes us so good in this deck. But let's start our attacking process. Hit him for 30, pull an energy out of the deck, and we start becoming a bit of a threat for them now. Really don't mind him trying to power up Plasma Fists. It's an attack they have to skip every now and then, and also it's not getting more energies into play, so I'm not opposed to this at all. They can Guzma and take an individual prize, but it won't change the prize race at all. Not that we're really racing, it's a bit of a heavy tortoise race. They also have the option of going for their GX attack, but I think they need the Tag Bolt if they're gonna get over the line with damage, ever. We're going to greens once more. This time we need to get a ball search card, obviously. So we'll grab this. And I think it's as simple as another greens, to be honest. We're just slowly whittling through our deck. Building up to these energies. We have the Acerola always being threatened. And this is why it's so good over Stevens, because we're thinning our deck so much more this way, and we're threatening heavy impacts now, which is not damage that he can ignore, basically. There's a Field Blower, so now we only have effectively 290 hit points. There's the small potential for him to Coco GX with 3 Electro Powers. I stress it is small. This might be the turn he chooses to full voltage. Full voltage essentially loses him 50 damage at some point, and that's actually a big deal for trying to push a one-shot against Lucario Melmetal. It's actually a big concern for him, I would say. There's a Thunder Mountain and a Mysterious Treasure. We don't want to see any more Let Looses. They're just going to fail that, which is good for us. Electro Power. Dedenne. Uh-oh. So, that's pretty aggressive from our opponent, really, when you think about it. Oh my goodness, they're going for a Static Shock. Wow, they spent the GX attack on this? That can't be correct. That can't be correct. I would maybe get on board with a full voltage, but this is just crazy. That is just absolutely crazy. That is just crazy. So let's put the stadium in. I think Acerola's fine here. I'm going to attach here because we don't need any metal energies out the deck. The 30 damage doesn't change too much here. It would actually just be, sorry, it would just be 30 damage. I don't think it's too big of a deal. And it means that we can green for Max Potion pretty happily next turn. They're going to Radar away a Pikarom and that Dedenne that they tingled back into their deck. Sorry, into their hand. Tingly Return GX. Here is the Tapu Koko GX. Obviously not much of a concern with only 2 energies and on board now. And they're going to Plasma Fists, that's fine. We actually draw Max Potion. It gives us the option to Plumeria. And I like the option. It also gives us the option to Lusamine, which isn't a bad option either. How many energies we've been through? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 energies so far. They have a lot of energies remaining. But I don't mind this too much. They can't attack with Zero Aura anyway next turn, so I think I'm Plumeriaing the bench. They can do some Guzma retreat plays if they want to, but I'm not too concerned about it. This Zero Aura is pretty easy to deal with, I would say, overall. I think I want to proactively Coronet here. It's rare that I will do this, but I think it's pretty reasonable to go for it in this case. Just because we've already seen Let Loose. They've already treasured and fail searched, and they're not often ever playing Judge in this list. So I think we can get away with it. They're going to bring up Coco GX. Looks like this is the thing they're going to try and use as a beat stick. Oh, they're just going to use it as a pivot. That works too. Plasma Fists. Da, 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 da. And we actually draw into Acerola, which I don't mind too much here. If I'm Max Potion, yeah, Max Potion's probably stronger here, to be honest. It means I can attach to the bench guy, which I don't mind. I can force more attachments from him by counter catching if I wish, which I also don't mind. We currently don't have the Lusamine loop, so that might be the thing I just try and work towards now. We're also not holding on to any frying pans, which is pretty tempting to go for. Pretty tempting. I like it. I'm going to attach and pass. So far, only one Electro Power used. That's the thing we need to keep track of in this matchup for sure. As well as energy cards, obviously. So, when you get a free turn, play a Lusamine. Pretty simple rule. Sure. I'm going to hold the Metal Energy. It can be Plumeria'd, and I don't want to walk into Energy Switch Tapu Thunder. Oh no, we don't have to worry about Tapu Thunder. Maybe I could have attached it. I was going to hold it for Plumeria anyways. Ah, they're going to burn more E-powers. Just try and threaten a two-shot. I mean, I can green for Max Potion again if I want to, but I think the Acerola is the strongest move here, because I can actually start attacking with heavy impact now. On this turn, at least. And again, it's like, wow, this is one way that we can remove 3 energies from play, just from knocking the thing out. And it almost makes it like an invalid attacker now. They're going to retreat. And they can full blitz. Are they going to pull out any more energies? 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. No, they're going to go for no energy cards. We can go greens. And honestly, I think Max Potion plus Ace is just the play here. They have 11 cards left in their deck. If we just Max Potion, Coronet, attach the bench, feels pretty fine. Don't forget, we don't have to win by taking prizes. They're the ones that have to do that. So just be as safe as houses and take no risks and it'll be fine. It'll be fine. 7, 8 energy now. Full blitz. We are respecting the E-powers that they could have. We have 140. We effectively have 200 hit points, but they're doing 180. So we do have to respect it somewhat. I mean, we're already forcing him to play an Electro Power. We have effectively 160 thanks to our GX attack. But he could just go in with Zeraora. Oh no, I'm going to kill Zeraora this turn. Yeah. It seems fine. This forces an Electro Power. And you shouldn't play an Electro Power because it doesn't change the prize race at all. So this is kind of like trying to bait an Electro Power at the same time you get to draw 2 cards. And I like drawing cards. Those are useless cards, but they could have been useful cards. Imagine that. We want the chance to start Acerola-ing. Oh, they actually have a second Let Loose. Very scary. Very scary. Full Blitz doesn't take the knockout, of course. Plumeria is very tempting here. Get 40 damage on it. Oh no, 60. It goes for resist. Perfect. Viridian's not a bad card for us to see, to be honest. So I had the intention of playing a Guzma this turn, but looks like Stevens is definitely the thing we'll be playing. Seems good. We still have to respect the potential for E-Power. How many Guzmas do they have left? Plenty of those. So let's think about the remaining cards in deck. 2 E-Powers, a number of Cynthias, 2 to 3 Guzmas, probably 1 or 2 Order Pads, more Ball Search. Not many useful cards. We have effectively 200 hit points again. How many energies? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's tempting to just go for Lusamine here, but I won't. We'll hit him for 30. Pull a card out of our deck. See the full blitz. Plumeria again tempting. We can go for the attachment and heavy impact here. Leave him with 20 hit points left. There's the Electro Power that we've been respecting this whole time. And the full blitz. Feels like it may well be his final attack. Well, especially with this Coronet now. Yep. 30 pokes enough to deal with that Pikarom. So it's that slow pressure, that slow grindy pressure that's able to beat out the Pikarom. Pikarom usually a very, very difficult matchup for the stalling players. Slow grinded it out, which is nice. Let's have one more game with this deck. I think it can definitely be piloted better, which is scary because I'm not playing it perfectly and it's still doing the job. Because there are definitely some players who are far better and more dedicated to stalling archetypes, which I'm not one of them. And they'll make better decisions at times than us. But this is one of the first games we've got to go first, so we actually get to play a hand and not be let loose immediately, which is pretty nice. We get to nest ball. What a treat. And we'll see what we're up against. Lele isn't much info. I think I will just Stevens. Almost always like grabbing a DCE. Because we're holding greens, there's no rush for us to find Acerola, because greens can always be max pot. So the flexibility of this card is definitely one of the best parts about this deck. You use it as much as Stevens, if not more. Oh, another lightning deck. Okay. We'll take on another lightning deck. If we can survive let loose, we'll be chill. Second Lele. Second Lele, huh? Alright then. You've earned the right. I think Lele's more or less a one-off now that there's Dedenne in some of these lightning decks. But they get the chance to... Wow, they're burning Electro Powers, which is not a good idea against this deck. Just to draw an extra card. Here comes the Radar. Getting rid of second Lily and Ultra Ball. That may indicate that they already have Let Loose in hand. Or it indicates they have cards that they don't want to Ultra Ball away. One of the two. Radar can get them Zeraora Pikarom. Could also get them Dedenne if they want to dig even deeper this turn. Two Lele on the board. Do they really want to put Dedenne into play? Who knows? They're up against Lucario Melmetal, so everything sort of changes towards that. Kind of makes the Zeraora a smarter play. They're taking their time on this, but yeah, they are going to go Pikarom and Dedenne comes out. Let's do it, Dedenne. Rayquaza. Gets rid of a Guzma. Which isn't too bad for us. Dedenne's going to pitch some more stuff. Did they choose not to play an Electro Power there? Oh, it was a multi-switch. Treasure. Here comes Let Loose, surely. Oh, no target? Or just Treasure pre-Let Loose? Actually just straight up concede. Okay. Well, that's all the time I have, really, for this, so... Yeah, let me know what you guys think about this deck. What would you change about the archetype? Have you tried out any of the builds alongside Regigigas and Hooper? I think overall, just this attacking pressure has won me over a good amount. We saw how useful it was against the Pikarom there. We were able to knock out a Zeraora and then knock out the Pikarom that was attacking us. So effectively, we were able to take out 6 energies from play just from doing that little bit of pressure. And it forces the opponent to act, right? It means they can't just sit there and wait for Electropowers to burst over the line. Or if they are waiting for it, they're getting punished along the way. And they're getting, sidetracked by the sort of distraction of damage that we're trying to pose to them. So let me know what you guys think about this metal build. Do you like it an attacking presence, or do you like it just more similar to the Regigigas stuff that we're used to? I'll hear it all down below, but hope you did enjoy, and I'll be back tomorrow with another Unbroken Bonds deck. Cheers.